All right, so I got the schematics drawn up here. We're going to look at the clock circuit because without sync, part of the sync is generated from our clock circuit here in this custom, which is giving us our horizontal frequencies. So we're going to start there and go through everything, see what we're missing, what we're not. So circle, this section here is what we're going to be concerned with. So let's power the board back up, and I do have logic probe hooked up. All right, low, high. All right, so we're good to go there. I'm going to just pick a random spot here. The output of the oscillator goes through this inverter here. We'll just check pin 7 of 5A here. Pin 7. We are flashing. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let's bring the scope up here real quick just so I can see what frequency that's giving us. I want to make sure, what is this crystal? 18.4 megahertz. So you guys aren't going to be able to see the scope output, but it is showing 18.4 meg on pin 7. So at this point, we know we have this portion here working correctly. So we can eliminate this here. So now we leave 5A out of 7, and that's our 18 megahertz we have. That goes into pin 12 right here, and pin 9 of 5B. So let's grab the logic probe and see if we have anything on 12 and 9 of 5B. So there's 7, 8, 9. That is flashing. Oh, let me just check it with the scope. And 8, 9. 12 to 18.4 megahertz on pin 9. So we're good here. Let's try. Clock is also coming on pin 12. So 9, 10, 11, 12. I'll get a good connection here. And 18.4 megahertz as well. So those two are good. Other inputs we have, we've got a pull-up resistor going into 1 and 8. We have 5 volts going into 13 and 4. I'll use track, and it's still 5B. So pins 4 and 13, let's check those. Pin 4, 2, 3, 4. And we're high there, so we're good. And what was the other one? Pin 13. High, so there's a high signal too. So we have our, I'm gonna have our 5 there. Output comes out of 3 into 8, then out on 5. So let's, we'll just check pin 5 first and see if we have anything. And nothing. We are floating. All right, so pin 5. So let's trace back. We're going to go into, let's check pin 3. And we do not have anything on pin 3. So it is looking like we got a bad 107 here. Now it is, all right, that goes into 5A, which we could check. Oh, let's check 5A real quick. Pin in on 10, out on 9. So let's just see if that's pulling them down. So in on 10. That is floating. And out on 9. And that is low. Why is that not high though? All right. Come on. good connection on here. I think our problem's right there in 5B. Let's double check. His output is pin 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We have nothing out on him. So it could possibly be that output's going down to our custom here. That's they're using that instead of using some 163s or 161s for the counter and dividing the frequencies. They're actually using that custom. It's possible that something downstream's pulling him down. We do have the added benefit of this being in a socket. So what I'm going to do real quick is just power the board off. We're going to pop this IC out real quick, or 107. And our output is pin 5. So if I take pin 5 here, and I'm just going to pry him out of the socket. And put him back in. Now we can check the pin here. If we have our output here, then something beyond this point is pulling it down. If we don't have it there, then it's a bad 107. Let's get the power back on. All right, and we're going to check pin 5 again. No, we do not have anything on pin 5. Let me just check them with the scope real quick just to make sure. Now, scope's showing nothing. So we got a bad 107, it looks like. So let's power down, pop him out, and pop a new one in. So this was one of the ICs they had socketed earlier. All right, so we're just going to put a new one in. That's 107. Here we go. Leg straight on him, and hopefully that makes a difference. Kind of want to play some Galaga today. All right, we're back in. Let's go power now. Once we get a good clock and sync, then we'll switch back over to the game. Actually, I'm going to just switch over to the game real quick and see. Input. VGA. Nope, no signal. Okay, so we have nothing there. All right, let's get back to our schematic. Yeah, what pin was that? 5, I believe. Yep, pin 5 is output. And we still have nothing. All right, what did I miss on 5B here? Yeah, it's very limited inputs. We got 5 volts. We're tying 4, 13, 10, and 11 to 5 volts. Going through that, pull up to 1. We have our clock coming in on 12 and 9, which we verified. 6 is an output. There's not anything else there. All right. That is one of the sockets I changed. Let me get the meter out, and we're going to ohm all of this out just to make sure we don't have a trace issue. Get the meter. All right. Now let's see. All right, so if we go through, 5 volts is coming in on 13 and 4. So what I'm going to do, that is our 5, ground, and 12. So we're just going to go for 5 volts there. So pins 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there we go. Come on. sure I am on my 5 volts. I am. 5 volts. We do not have continuity to pin 4. 13. Yeah, we got that. All right, so there's a problem. 10 and 11. 8, 9, 10, and 11. We do not. Interesting. 5 volt. All right, we have it. Why are we missing all of those? All right, let's take a look here. Let me pull him back out once. Get a look. So that is a new socket. All right, so here's our 5 volt rails, and we have continuity from there to this point. So that, yeah, we should have 5, that should be continuity between 4, 13, 10, and 11. And we, 4, 13, 10, and 11. It's absolutely nothing. Okay, so somehow, let's see, we have it on that rail, we have it on that one, we have it on this. So power should be coming from these. 5, all right, so 5 volts also on 1K on RX1. Where's RX? RX1, right here. So one of these two sides is going to be tied to 5 volts. That one right there. So we have our 5 to here. We don't have it down going to those. So we're going to have to actually look at the traces on here. I'm going to have to flip the board and see why we don't have that. That is odd. All right, so let's start looking at the board more. Let me get disconnected here and ohm all this out. So we might have a damage trace underneath this. So let's see what the bottom of the board looks like first. Let me get things disconnected here, and we'll take a look. I'm going to pull this. I don't want to flip it over with everything attached. Come on. All right. Second one up. Oh, let me swing. Swing the scope in here. I don't know if I got room for that or not. Let's just use a magnifying mirror first to see if I see anything obvious. It should be pretty obvious here. All right, there's pin 1, pin 4. There's no traces going. Nothing going off the bottom of the board for that. What was the other one? 13. 13 does. 13 jumps over to 9. Let's bring the meter back in line here. Just going to ohm out the bottom here. So pin 13. Make sure we're not, yep, we're not shorted there, and that goes to, oh, wrong one. Pin 13 going over to 9, 7, 8. Is that right there? All right, that's not shorted though. That's 14, 8, and 9. That's, oh, 9's not in it. Sorry, I'm losing my mind here. It is 13 and 4. So there's 13, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we do not have any connection here at all. That is not shorted to that. That looks good. Oh, wait a minute. Square pin, pin 1, you dumbass. I'm on the wrong pins. That could explain a great deal. Been one of those days. I'm looking at it upside down. My brain's not thinking upside down right now. Let's just check it on the top here. 4. Yeah, 4, 4, 4, and 13. Yeah, now we have it. 4 and 13 are tied together. Oh, they weren't tied to the 5 volt. And 5 volts here. Yep, nothing. How are we missing? That's missing on 4 pins from here. Let's go back to our 5, pin 4, 13, 9, 10 and 11. 8, 9, and 10, and 11. Yeah, we got some trace issues somewhere. Let me pull this socket out and we'll take a good look what's underneath it. Something may have lifted when I pulled that earlier. So let me shut everything down here and let me get him out and we'll look at the board underneath it again just to see. We definitely have some connection issues here. All right, got the IC or the socket pulled out of this and I do see a problem. Now I want to look here at the socket I pulled out of this, but as you can see here, our 5 volts comes in on pin 14 on a 107. 7s are ground. We do have continuity from ground to ground on our pin here, so that's good, but we do not have any continuity on our 5 volt rail to here. And if you look, part of the upper pad here is missing, and this trace that runs across is missing. So that explains why that chip was giving us no output or anything. That thing was just sitting there with no 5 volts to it. So that explains that. Now what I want to do real quick, let's get you back overhead here. Now one good thing is I keep everything until I'm done with the repairs. Then my repairs go, or any parts go to the customer. All right, so pin 14, pin 14 is missing on him. I don't know if that was that or not. I was just looking to see if we had part of that trace. So that needs to be repaired. So what I'll do is I will get a small resistor lead, drop down through, tack it onto our 5 volt rail here and epoxy that down, and we'll let it hang down. When I put the new socket in, that'll connect all that together, and that IC will now be powered by our 5 volt. So let me get that repair done and the socket back in that, and I'll be back when that is done. Hey, did get that trace repaired now, so we did ohm it out. We do have our continuity between our 5 volt rail now and the IC. So let's get the coffee out of the way here. Let me get the video board back out. All right, get this reconnected, and now let's see if we have a clock and some sync. Goes to show, my guess is when I was desoldering, I caught the trace or something and pulled it out. Didn't notice it, didn't feel bad when I was working on anything, but things do happen. But it is repaired now, and that 5 volts is reestablished. Or should be once we get power here. Alright, and video signal. Let's get my test lead out of the way. Don't need that shorting against anything. Alright. connected. 107 is back in. Let me get the monitor fired up here. All right, let's see what we have, if we have anything different. With any luck, we'll actually have an image on our screen. I have no image. Oh, wait. Let's switch. I think it's my input. Yep. Let's go back to VGA. Now let's see what we have. Hey, we have. All right, we got sync again. Got some weird bars and graphics. It's probably saying RAM error there. But we do have sync, so our clock is good. I like that. So I'm not even going to bother checking anymore there. Like I said, this here looks like a RAM issue on our video board. So, let's see. These are 2114s. What I can do just temporarily is throw some new ones in and see if that clears it up. Then we can go through. If it does, just pick one at a time, put the old ones back in to see which one's back. I cannot see, all I see is R. I can't see RAM or the error number or anything like that with this, but this definitely looks like RAM issues to me. So let me pop these out, put some new 2114s in here and see if we get anything different. Kill the power here. We should have enough of these left over to do this. I was getting low on these for a while. Had to order some new ones in. Pretty sure they're 2114s, yeah. Just going to line these up in the back. And we'll change them all. But that's our first sign of life there. I like it. I'll be playing a game of Galaga here after all tonight. All right, got the 6 RAMs out. Let me grab a bin of new ones. Like I said, I did restock. I got plenty of RAM now. Go through spurts where I won't use any for the longest time. Then all of a sudden, just a Pac-Man or Centipede will just chew them up left and right. These are actually 9114s, which are interchangeable with the 2114. A little easier to get and probably a little bit cheaper as well, but they work perfect. Oops. Helps if I keep them in the right orientation here. Don't want to put them in backwards. Back here. Yeah, from what I've seen of that image we were getting there, definitely I think it's on our video board. As I said, it looked like it was trying to display a RAM error, but just all I could see was the R of it. The rest was underneath those lines. But usually when you have repeating patterns like that and stuff, that just screams of RAM. Okay. They're all in the correct orientation. Let's repower and see what we get. Did we get anything different? Not really. All right. So that kind of rules out a RAM. Let me get my test jumper back out there and jump this thing into test mode and see if we can get any results out of that. Let me power down and do that real quick and be right back. All right, the more I sit here and stare at the screen here, we're not really running code either. I know we have a RAM issue on the video board itself. You can tell by the repeating lines and everything here. But this here, which I'm thinking is going to give us a RAM error, it'll say RAM and a number, but it also could say RAM OK, because we're really not changing the background or anything. We don't have any sound. We may not be running completely on here. This might say RAM OK, which when you get that on a Galaga, that means the first CPU did its test and fired off. The remaining two are not going and booting. Usually is what that means. So what I want to do so I can see what the screen's actually showing and everything like that. Not a big fan of doing this, but what I'm going to do is go up to my cabinet, take my board set out, and we're going to use the video board on mine to connect to his CPU board. That will give us, I'm hoping, a nice clear picture here. We'll be able to see exactly what the screen's showing us instead of having these lines and everything like that. Then we'll go from there. Then if it is hanging or we do have a RAM error, we'll know what it is. So let me go grab my board set and we'll swap these out and try that. All right, have my video board connected now. So let's power up and see if it gives us a better visual on our error we're getting here. It should hopefully gain some more info off of this. All right, there's our boot screen. RAM OK. All right, so it's not a RAM error it was giving us. Well, different board, it might be, but what this does tell me with that RAM OK, that's telling me the CPU board is not booting to the second and third Z80s. They're just sitting here. All right, making progress. So let me bring up the schematics for the Z80s here, and we'll go from there. So let me bring those up on the schematics. And let me switch over the input here real quick. There we go. All righty, Z80s. So here's our primary. First one. So he's booting. It's just not getting, not booting here. One of these two isn't. Let me grab, where'd I put my logic probe here? Let's get that connected real quick. And we'll see. All right, so reset, pin 26. Let's start with this guy. 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That is high. Let's just check this one as well. Yeah, they're being held yet. All right. So now we have to trace back through the schematics and see why. Let's make sure we got clocks here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, that is interesting. 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, there's our clock right there on pin 6, but why don't we have him here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. we have no clock on our third Z80 here. That definitely, let's look here real quick. 4E, here we go. Recent held there. And clock on pin 6. Yeah, I'm going to say that's our problem. Or a problem, at least. That should have a clock. All right. Let me power down here. And he's a little warm. Yeah. We're not doing much of anything. No heat on those at all. All right. Let me get the meter out here and let's see. Well, let's see what we got here. That's interesting. Without a clock, a Z80 is just going to sit there and be unhappy. All right, let's just see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Should be continuity between pin 6 on these. And yeah, there is nothing. No continuity between the but we have it on him. All right, so I wonder if it's more likely just the same thing we ran into here. Maybe trace damage. So let me see if I could see him. Let's yep, power's off. Good. Let's get this one out of here once and see if we could see anything obvious. Him aside. All right. Let's try. See, there's traces run on the top for these guys, most of them. All right, pin 6. Actually, let me get you guys down here a little closer. All right, so pin 6 and pin 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alrighty, so that is coming out. That's one of those two. I can't quite see which one, but if I look at pin 6 here, there's this trace here, and it probably has a short jumper to go to the pads. Yep. So we have it right here at this via dropping down through, but we don't here. So that's a definite connection issue. That's no clock, no work. So crap. That's too bad. Bad traces on this now. Not liking that. So let me get that repaired and we'll boot it back up and see what happens. Well, I ended up pulling the socket. I had to see what was underneath it. I could have ran a botch wire down between it to connect it, but I wanted to see why we didn't have that connection anymore. Right here is pin 6, and you can see the trace is missing between that via and here. This trace that runs up here goes to pin 6 on our other two processors. So he was not being clocked. So I looked at the 40 pins I took out of here. There is no material or no extra soldering, nothing ripped out on the 40 pins that I pulled out. I have no idea how I did that, but I don't know where it went. But we're gonna run a jumper down through these, solder everything back in, and repopulate the socket. So let me get that done and we'll be right back. All right, so that trace is repaired. Socket's back in, repopulated the Z80 in there. Now just time to connect everything and see. Well, at least we should have that Z80 doing something now. And guys, I don't know what I am off on my game on this one. I cannot remember the last time I lifted a pad, let alone doing 2 in one board repair. That is unusual for me. But it is fixed. That is done. See, get the monitor fired up here. And see if we have anything different on the screen. There we go. All right. It is set to free play. All right, good. Can't tell if you guys can hear that or not. We do have a buzz coming. Have to look at that. Normally that's a capacitor, but we've been recapped. So I'll have to look into that and see what's coming. It could be one of these, but that's a much, much better image right there. Now let's, all right, now this is, as I said, this is my video board. So what I want to do now is power down, put customer's board back on here, and let's see what we have. But that is much better right there. I'm glad. That is, again, that is unusual. I 2 in one board now I lifted. So all right, let me power off here real quick. Just leave the monitor attached and connected. Get this out of the way here. Come on, get out of there. All right. Let me set mine aside. And there's his board back. Now that we know the game is booting up the whole way, now we'll see what it shows us here. I know we still have RAM issue somewhere on this board. Who knows? It could be another trace error. Might be 3 for 3 on this one. All right, that's reconnected. Monitor's still on. Let's see what we have now. No, we're not. Interesting. We are not, actually looks the same. All right, well, let's get the logic probe out here. Yeah, we'll stop the monitor for now. Let's get the logic probe out and start probing. We got, what is that, 6116 RAM here, I think. Let's check him and just kind of go over a few things, look for some signals. Well, I'm not sure where my logic probe went. I'll use a backup one. We'll use Grandpa here. We'll break him out. Helps if you hook it up right, dumbass. Yeah, my head is not on tonight. All right, so there we go. Now, let's check this RAM here. stopped using this one a while ago because the lights are extremely dim on this. All right, let's just check. Not seeing anything. I went to him. All right. It could be something with the VRAM addresser. And as of now, we still have all new memory in. So, well, doesn't even look like it's getting as far as with the other video board, and we got a better response. Let me try to get it on free play. Now, it's not even starting a game at this point. We had full graphics on the other one. Ah, that is interesting. All right, get some static out of our... A little static there, make sure nothing's getting hot. All right. Well, now we're down to, I was going to say down to that issue. So one thing I'm going to change real quick here. Let's just swap video boards again. If it boots correctly with the other video card, then I want to go over this with the scope or the magnifying glass and look at all the traces and everything, because, you know, we may have an issue. So let's just reconnect my board to it. And my video connector go. All right, let's power back up. And see if we finish booting this time. Yep. Oh, you guys can't see it, but... All right, though. There we go. As you can see, it is going. Let me try to play a game real quick. All right, we have sound, but it is definitely muddled there. We have movement. Don't have any firing. All right, so the game still got issues. Now, is that in the video board or not? I don't know. But let me, all right, so we're done with that. Power this off, and what I'm going to do, as I said, I want to get a good look at his board under the scope here and look at all the traces and everything. So let me disconnect and move the CPU board out of the way. All right, let me poke around on this for a little bit. Oh, wrong board. That one's good. We don't want to poke on that one. That's our poker. So let me start taking a good look at it here, and I'll be back when I find something.